Today's topic is the flowering plant. Today we are going to discuss the basic structure of flowering plant. Each flowering plant is having two systems, that is root system and shoot system. Root system is underground part of the stem and shoot system is aerial part of the stem. The shoot system consists of one or more stems, that means it may be branched or it may be unbranched. On the stem the leaves are attached. Again there is great variation in the attachment of the leaves on the stem. Arrangement of the leaves on the stem, it may be spiral arrangement or leaves may be attached opposite to each other or in the decussate manner or in spiral manner. Or more rarely in whorls of leaves are also present in some plants. The leaves are arranged in whorl form on the stem. When the leaf arises from the stem on the branch, the point from which leaf arises, that point is known as node, and the position and the portion of or the region between two nodes is described as internode. Internodal region. The angle formed by the leaf and its parent stem, when the leaf is attached to the stem, its angle is formed between leaf and stem. That angle is known as axial. And from axial, buds are developed, new branches are developed on the stem. When the bud is developed from the axial of the leaf, that is described as axillary bud. And when the bud is developed at the end region of the stem, it is described as terminal bud. What is bud? In fact, the bud is a small shoot with a very short internodes. Condensed internodes are present in bud and the leaves are immature. It is a small shoot. What is bud? It is a small condensed shoot of the plant. Some buds do not develop further, but if they develop so, the internode increases in length and the leaves enlarge in size and forming a typical shoot. This is about branches. And branches, again there is great variation in branches of the tree or according to tree, the branches arise differently. Attachment of the leaves is different in each plant. All these points helps in identification of the plant during taxonomic study. What is flower? Flower is a reproductive part of the plant. Each flower consists of two important organs or units, that is accessory organ and essential organ. The stalk of the flower, where the flowers are developed, even the flower is a bud. Flower may be regarded as buds. Sometimes it is regarded as bud, which is modified for the purpose of reproduction of the parent plant. The outermost leaves or outermost floral parts, which are leafy, and the inner leaves on other hand have in many cases undergone considerable modifications in shape and color and have become highly specialized in order to perform a variety of functions necessary for the successful propagation of plant concerned. These modified leaves are now referred as to a floral parts. In more primitive plants, in some plants, floral parts are indefinite in number. For example, in China rose, we have seen how many calyx are there? 5. How many petals? 5. But in some plants, the floral parts are indefinite in number. In a family, in one of the family which is very primitive, which is called as Magnoliac family, in this case floral parts are indefinite in number and that are arranged on an elongated axis. And in China rose, it is a member of Malvaceae. It is a more advanced family. What happened in this? The number of floral parts is reduced. Only 5 calyx, only 5 corolla, only 5 stamens are there. That means in advanced families there is reduction in number of parts, floral parts, which then arise from much shortened axis. In either case, the production of flower means that the growth of stem concern is now limited, although it may continue to elongate sufficiently in order to allow the flower cluster. What is flower cluster? Flowering shoot of the plant, it is known as inflorescence. Flower cluster means inflorescence. Inflorescence. When growth of the stem by apical extension takes place, that type of growth is described as monopodial growth of stem and results is an inflorescence. Such growth results in an inflorescence known as raceme. In contrast to this, the main stem may increase in length and flowers are formed on that. If this occurs on lateral branches, it may arise from buds below the flower. This is called sympodial growth and results in an inflorescence known as cyme. Determining whether an inflorescence is racemose or cymose may sometimes be very difficult, but they are usually distinguishable by the order of flower development. In raceme, the youngest flower is situated at the apex of the stem, and in cymose type of inflorescence, youngest flower is situated at the base of the stem. Okay, this is the difference between these two. Grouping of flowers together into an inflorescence of whatever kind renders them more conspicuous and is an important aid to pollination. What is inflorescence? The term inflorescence is used for the cluster of individual flowers, but correctly employed, it includes the stem from which the flowers arise. The stem on which flowers are arranged or on which the flowers are originated, that stem is known as peduncle. That means the stalk of the inflorescence, the stalk-like structure of inflorescence is known as peduncle. And the flowers are arranged on flowering shoot. The stalk of the flower is known as pedicel. Okay. There may often be scale or leaf-like structures arise from the peduncle or pedicel. That means small leafy structures are developed at the base of the pedicel. They are called bracteoles. That structure is called bract, and if it is present at the base of the base of the pedicel, that is stalk of the flower, such flower is considered as bracteate flower, and when it is absent, such flower ebracteate flower, that is described as ebracteate flower. And these are usually simple in shape. The bracts are leafy structures, whereas scale-like small simple structures, and present in some plants. If present, flower described as bracteolate. If absent, abracteolate flower. Okay. Where the bracteoles are present in dicotyledons, there are usually two in number situated opposite to each other on the pedicel. But only a single bracteole may be present in monocotyledon. In many inflorescences, each pedicel arises from the axil of the bract on the peduncle. In this composite family, in some plants, for example, you know the sunflower. Sunflower, it is an inflorescence. It is not a flower. It is an inflorescence. The inflorescence is highly condensed, appear head-like. Hence, it is called head-like inflorescence. Flowers are sessile. There is no pedicel to the flower. Flowers are sessile. When the stalk is not present to the flower, such flowers are described as sessile. And the inflorescence, it is the inflorescence. Sunflower, it is the inflorescence that is known as capitulum. Such type of inflorescence is known as capitulum. Both male and female flowers are different, separately present in capitulum, which is borne on the thickened and flattened apex of peduncle. The bracts in this sunflower, there are many bracts arranged, thickly populately arranged. They are called involucre. And how is the flower? A typical flower, structure of typical flower. The flower is having, if the flower is having stalk, it is called pedicellate flower. If it has no stalk, such flower is called sessile flower. At the base of flower, small leafy structure is present, that flower is considered as bracteate flower. If leafy structure is absent, that flower is considered as abracteate flower. After that, in China rose, you know China rose, member of family Malvaceae, apicalyx is present below the calyx. It is green in color. 5 to 6 lobes of apicalyx are there. And in most of the flowers, apicalyx is absent. And first oral, that is accessory oral of the flower, is calyx. Second accessory oral is corolla, and essential oral of the plant flower is Androsium. Another essential oral of the plant is Gynosium. Okay. These are let us see the accessory organs of the flower. The very important accessory organ of flower is first accessory organ, that is calyx. What is calyx? Calyx is made up of cluster of sepals. Sepals may be 3, 5 or more than 5. Calyx is made up of, that means all the sepals together known as calyx. Okay. If the sepals are united, that calyx is described as gamosepalous. If the calyx lobes or the sepals are separate, that calyx is described as polysepalous. Okay. And next, again in some plant there is great modification of calyx, as we have seen in Bougainvillea, Dictagenaceae family. Modified calyx is there. Calyx resemble the corolla lobes. It is colored like a corolla to attract the insects, and flowers are very small in that case. Again, on the basis of modification of calyx, there are several types of modification of calyx occur in plants, flowering plant. Again, that acts as a very important feature for the identification of the plants, flowering plants. And second accessory oral is corolla. Corolla, all the petals together known as corolla. Petals may be 3, 5 or more. Many petals are present in Rosaceae family. 5 petals are present in China rose. Three petals are present in river discolor. Like this, these are the petals. When the petals are united, the corolla is described as gamopetalous. Okay. When the corolla lobes or the petals are free, that corolla is described as polypetalous. Okay. In some flowers we have seen, for example, in Sadabahar, Catharanthus rosaceus, the petals and sepals are not distinct. In this case, what we can do, that oral is considered as, that is described as perianth, and the perianth lobes are termed as tepals. Tepals, okay? And the main function, what is the main function of corolla? To attract the pollinating agents, usually insects, but more rarely birds, bats, even the snails helps in pollination. In animal pollinated flowers, there are often special structures which secrete nectar, which is sweet substance, and the nectar secreting organ being termed as nectary. Nectary is present at the base of the ovary in animal pollinated flowers of the flowering plant. The form of nectary may vary considerably between one plant to another. Again, this is one of the point for identification of the plant during the study of plant taxonomy. Essential organs of the flower. Which are the essential organs of the flower? The essential organs are Androsium and second is Gynosium. Androsium, what is Androsium? All the stamens together known as Androsium. Okay. And what is Gynosium? Gynosium, it is the female part of the flower which consists of ovary, style and stigma. Let us see what is Androsium. Androsium consists of stamens, all stamens together known as Androsium. And when the stamen is functional, it is having, the parts of stamen are a filament and at the top a anther. Anther and filament, there are two parts in the stamen. When it is functional, it is called stamen, it is a normal stamen. And when the stamen is not functional, it do not produce pollen grain. Such stamens are described as staminodes. As we have seen in Cisalpinaceae family, staminodes are there in the flower. Total 10 stamens are there in Cisalpinaceae, but only 4 stamens are fertile, 4 to 8 stamens are fertile and 3 to 4 staminodes are present out of 10. Okay, in Cisalpinaceae family, Cisalpinia, Pulcherrima or Danolix. Okay. Which are the parts of stamen? Stamen is having a long filamentous stalk-like structure which is known as filament. Again, there is great variation in the shape of filament. It may be thin, it may be thick, it may be very long, it may be very short like this. At the top, anther is placed. Anther is pollen grain bearing region and it may be dithecous. Dithecous means it may be having 2 lobes, or monothecous, single lobe. Again, there is great variation in the shape of the anther which helps in the identification of the plants. The lobes in the stamen, they are joined together by a tissue which is known as connective. Sometimes the anther has only one lobe, and in some only one lobe with 2 pollen sacs. We have seen such anthers in family Malvaceae or in China rose. Such anthers are termed as monothecous, in contrast to the normal dithecous condition. What is dehiscence? Split open of the at maturity, the anthers break down and release the pollen grains. This phenomenon is known as dehiscence. There is a variation in the dehiscence of anther. Again, that characteristics is also considered as a point for identification of the plant. The dehiscence of the anther may be longitudinal or poricidal. A pore is formed at the top of the anther, or it may be transverse dehiscence. Again, how is the attachment of the anther to the filament? Base is fixed. The base of the anther may be fixed to the apex of the filament. When the filament, at the top of the filament, base of the anther is attached, united, such fixation of anther with filament is described as base-fixed anther. Or in some cases, the anther is attached to the backside. Anther lobe is attached. Backside of the anther lobe is attached to the filament. Such anther is described as dorsifixed. That is fixed at the dorsal side of the anther. Sometimes a considerable portion of the anther is united with the filament and it is then incapable of separate movement. In this case, movable anthers are described as versatile. In certain flowers, the filaments are so slender that they bend over at the apex and the anthers are then described as pendulous. Versatile and pendulous anthers are frequently found in wind-pollinated flowers. The relative position of anther. How is the relative position? When the anther lobe, that depends on the position of anther. The anther is the term used for the position of anther is used for anther depends on relationship of its line of dehiscence with the center of the flower. The anther is known as introdes. That means the anther lobe, when the face of the anther lobe bend toward the mother axis or toward the gynosium or mother axis. Such position of the anther is described as introdes when the face of the anther is at the peripheral region of the flower, or such position is described as extrodes. Okay. How is the fusion of the stamens? In some cases, stamens are fused and stamens are free. If the stamens are fused in a one bundle, it is described as monodal first condition. All the stamens are fused in forming a one bundle, as we have seen in China rose. If the stamen, there are two groups of stamens, for example in family Papilionaceae, in pea family, one stamen is separated, 9 stamens are together, diadelphous, 2 bundles of the stamen are there, diadelphous. Okay. All this is about essential oral, that is Androsium. What is Gynosium? The basic unit of Gynosium is carpel, which at maturity forms the true fruit enclosing the seed. The carpel is made up of several. In many flowers, the carpels are united, which are described as syncarpous. If the carpels are free, polycarpous. And the carpel or the gynosium, which are the units of carpel or gynosium. Gynosium consists of ovary, style and stigma. Ovary is present at the basal region. When all the floral parts are originated from the base of the ovary, such ovary is described as superior ovary. When the floral parts are originated from the top of the ovary, such ovary is described as inferior ovary. At the top of ovary, a small thin tubular filamentous structure is arised and that is called style. At the end of the style, again there is great variation in style. There is variation in size, variation in shape, variation in length, variation in color. All these points are also considered for identification of the plant. And at the top, a stigma is placed. Again, stigma is there is great variation in the shape of the stigma. It may be capitate, it may be nodulated, it may be lobed, or it may be filobed or bilobed or pentalobed. All these characteristics, minute characteristics, their modifications of stigma are also the very important points for the considered for the identification of the plant. This is all about flowering plants.